It's a big episode for us today, so I'm giving you so much supersized stuff inside. I'm Cameron. I spent years building my career and creating a life I loved. And when my Prince Charming finally showed up, he had 4 kids in tow. Fast forward through lots of mistakes made and lessons learned, step family life was much more complicated than I realized. If you're looking for help with blended family life, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Stepmom Diaries, where we keep it real as we dish about all the things. This is your weekly dose of blended family inspiration and encouragement. You're not the wicked stepmother, so let me help you find your fairy tale ending. Come on, let's do this. Welcome. Oh my gosh, this is such a big episode for the Stepmom Diaries because it's a big number for us. This is our 100th episode. I am so excited to have reached this milestone. Before I dive into all the things we've got, I wanted to make sure that you knew about a masterclass that I've got coming up. If you're on my email list or if you follow me on Instagram, you have probably already heard about this, but it's a good one. So if you haven't signed up yet, I hope you'll go do it right now. It is called From Exhausted to Empowered, the 60-minute reset every stepmom needs and deserves. And it is happening Wednesday, February 26th at 6 p.m. Eastern. This is a new masterclass that I have not taught before, and y'all, it's so good. So good. I'm going to give you some strategies that you can implement right now to become happier, healthier, and more confident, even if you are in the depth of feeling your bathroom floor feels and are convinced that things will never get better. I have been there. I know how you feel, but we're going to talk about 3 really big, maybe huge even, obstacles that hold back almost every stepmom. But these are things that you can address with a few simple mindset shifts. So I'm going to talk to you about what those obstacles are, and I'm going to give you those mindset shifts so that you can make some progress immediately and live into that beautiful blended family life that you want and do it without sacrificing your happiness. And at the masterclass, I'm also going to tell you about a new 8-week group coaching program that I'm launching that is going to be a game changer. It's going to be an action-packed 60 minutes. And when you leave that masterclass, you are going to feel lighter and you're going to feel more in control of your stepmom life. February 26th, 6 p.m. Eastern is when it's all happening. Did I mention it is free? So I'm going to put the link in the show notes. But it is stepfamilysolutions.com/empowered-stepmom. 60 minutes for some real change. You don't want to miss it. Okay, so today's episode, I have to tell you, when I started this podcast, I did not even imagine that we would get to 100 episodes. That seemed really far away and maybe even unreachable. And if I'm being honest, the thought of sitting here in front of a microphone every week scared me a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I just sort of felt like, would people want to hear anything I had to say? Would I be able to get good guests that stepmoms even wanted to hear from? I have been so honored and gratified that the answer to both questions so far has been yes. I am so grateful for you listening to me for these last few years. We are in the top 2.5% of podcasts worldwide, and it's all because of you. So I would like to do something for you to thank you. I've got an amazing giveaway for you. So keep listening. I'm going to tell you about it in the middle of the episode. And I thought in this episode that it would be a fun opportunity just to take a look back at everything we've covered in these 100 episodes. I'm not going to give you a blow-by-blow of every episode. Don't worry. But I thought we would just take a look back and have a little retrospective, if you will. And, you know, I have to say, when I started this podcast, one of the things I had to decide was if I was going to put out seasons. So you'll notice, like, when you find podcasts on iTunes or whatever, Some of them are broken up into seasons, some are not. And it was a deliberate choice when I started this podcast that I was not going to do seasons. It makes me a little less structured than some of the podcasts out there that do have seasons. But what's done over the years is it's given me the flexibility to come on and talk to you year round. If I come across a guest that I think is going to be really interesting or have some really timely advice for you, I don't have to wait months to get them in front of you. I do have a schedule that I follow and all that good stuff. But if there's someone I want to get in front of you, I just record an interview and get them on as soon as I can. And usually that's within a few weeks if it's somebody that's got something really timely. One example of that we had this fall was when I chatted with Sigal Kaplan, who's in Israel. She's done some great research around the impact of the war there on step families. And it was a really timely topic that I think is relevant for anybody that's going through trauma right now. And obviously, what's going on in that part of the world is very timely. So it was super to get to record the episode with her and bring that to you. Anyway, I have loved being able to talk to you year round, year after year, and I have had such a blast growing this little corner of the podcast community. And I will say, I mean, there are more resources out there now for step families than there were when I became one. And I'm so happy that I have been able to be just a very small part of that. And I plan on being out there for the years to come, talking to stepmoms and step families and helping to get evidence-based and research-backed resources out there for as long as I can. And I hope that you'll continue to come along with me. So with that, what I want to do today is just walk through the 10 biggest lessons that I have gotten and that I think have been helpful for stepmoms from our first 100 episodes. This was a big thing to whittle down. And I have to tell you, we've had so many guests on the podcast and they all could have been in this 10 biggest lessons list. But each of these lessons corresponds with an episode of the podcast. And I'm going to link them all in the show notes at stepfamilysolutions.com/episode 100. These are in no particular order. They're just episodes and lessons that I have been found to be packed with a lot of insight for stepmoms. And they're also the episodes that have gotten the most response from you. And I do love to hear from you about episodes. I usually post on Instagram when I have a new episode out. So, you can head on over there and leave me comments if you love that episode or drop a review in iTunes. I listen to all of your feedback and it helps me shape what I work on to bring to you on the podcast. So, okay, let's dive in. And again, these are in no real particular order, just things that I have found to be great takeaways from our first 100 episodes. So, number one, the first lesson is it's crucial for building healthy step-family relationships that we understand the unique challenges of step-family dynamics. And this is from episode 32 with Dr. Patricia Papernow, Talking All Things Stepmom. If you have been part of my world for a while, you know that I love working with Patricia Papernow. She is one of the top, if not the top, renowned expert around the world on blended families. She also serves on my Step Family Solutions Advisory Board, and she did review and endorse the curriculum I developed for the Step Family Coach Academy Step Family Coach Certification Program. She has done some amazing work over the years, but through her research, she has articulated the 5 challenges that every step family faces and how different those challenges are from the ones that first families face. And in my view, this is such an important lesson because before you can really start to address whatever challenges you're facing in step family life, you've got to understand what the issue is. So it made sense for this to be the first lesson that I mentioned to you because I think it really does sort of underscore the work that we do with step families. And Patricia talks a lot about how to build relationships over time and how to navigate misunderstandings. But for me, the biggest takeaway is that you really need to understand the difference between what step families face and what nuclear families face, because that plays into how to navigate step family life. So that's lesson 1. Lesson 2, little lighter lesson. Embracing a mindset of positivity and ease can transform your stepmotherhood experience. This comes from episode 59, Letting It Be Easy Even with Stepmom Life, with Susie Moore. Now, Susie has been a business mentor of mine, and honestly, she is just one of my favorite people. She is like a little ball of sunshine, but not in a way that makes you feel bad if you're not sunshiny, if that makes sense. She wrote a book a few years back called Let It Be Easy, and it's all about approaching challenges with a mindset that prioritizes ease and reduces unnecessary stress. And it's one of those little catchphrases that you can kind of repeat to yourself. Let it be easy, right? It works. I can tell you, it works. And when you can shift your mindset to view the obstacles that get thrown at you as opportunities for growth, and yes, I get it, that is no picnic sometimes, but it can lead to really profound changes in your daily life, and it can transform your stepmotherhood experience. Susie is not a stepmom, but she really gets this aspect of stepmotherhood, right? She gets that when you can switch the way that you view obstacles and let it be easy, then you can transform your life. So I loved my conversation with her in that episode. And I want to note that I will put links in the show notes to all of the episodes that I'm referencing. And you can find the show notes at stepfamilysolutions.com/episode 100. All right, let's move to lesson 3. This is another one of my business mentors. And the lesson is balancing personal ambitions with stepfamily responsibilities requires intentional planning and self-awareness. That's a mouthful, but the bottom line is, this is from episode 56, Stepmom Life and Business Life with Amy Porterfield. I am going to follow Susie up with another one of my business mentors, and Amy is amazing. She has built a multi-million dollar business. She's also a stepmom. Now, she talks a lot in her business and on her social about her husband, Hobie. But until the last few years, she didn't talk a ton about being a stepmom. And I've loved seeing that evolve in her business and with her online presence. And that's what we got to talk about on this episode. Now, she came on my podcast to promote her New York Times bestselling book, 2 Weeks Notice. And it is a great book. And I will link to it in the show notes, of course. But the real takeaway for me with Amy was about balancing stepfamily life with your personal ambitions. Because so many stepmoms that I work with feel like they have to put their lives on hold. Like they have to prioritize all the things that come with stepfamily life. And it's just not true. And it was so great to talk to Amy about, some of the stuff that she hadn't talked about a ton before publicly in terms of being a stepmom and all of this stuff, but also managing stepmom life and her professional growth, which has been explosive, and the importance of prioritizing, boundaries and self-care and all that stuff and staying flexible, all of which is huge in stepfamily life. So it's a great episode. Episode 56 with Amy Porterfield. Lesson number 4. Stepmom and mom don't have to be rivals. This is a big one because, I talk so much with stepmoms who are struggling with their partner's ex. But that made this episode 87, When Blended Does Mean Happily Ever After, with Kat Sadler and Sarah Boyd. It made this episode so much fun for many reasons, but and I should say the first reason that it made it really fun was I used to love watching Kat Sadler host all the awards show red carpets on E, and she's always seemed like so much fun. But as I got to know her and got to know Sarah Boyd, who is her kid's stepmom, the fact that they not just get along, but are actual real life besties, it blew my mind. So I had to talk to them and understand how they did it. And I actually taped the interview for this episode for the 2024 Stepmom Summit. But I loved talking to them both about how they've been able to prioritize communication, mutual respect, and they both really have shared a commitment to putting the kids first. I thought it was such a great conversation. I shared it with you guys on the podcast back on episode 87. But their journey together is fun to listen to because it does prove that when both women are willing and able to work together, and I know that that's not always possible, right? Totally get it. But when they can, step family life can be really empowering. And they do talk a lot about like putting the kids' needs first and, how they have put on a unified front in their co-parenting, but also how they've built this real life friendship and they even work together professionally. This kind of cooperative co-parenting is not something that we hear about a lot in the step family world because we're so focused on like so many of the circumstances where step family life has gone sideways, that this was a really fun episode to do. And I think a really great lesson that, you don't have to be enemies with the kid's mom, right? So lesson number 5. This one is another important one. Having some structured communication strategies can mitigate conflicts with a high conflict co-parent. So this is the other end of the spectrum, right? We've gone from the co-parents who get along really well and work together to the co-parents that are really high conflict. And this is from episode 27 with Megan Hunter. Now, I've had Megan Hunter, she's CEO of the High Conflict Institute. I've had her as a guest several times, and there's a reason for that. She provides amazing advice on managing the high conflict people in your life, whether that is at home, at work. But if you're a stepmom listening to this podcast, it's probably your partner's ex, right? Megan co-founded the High Conflict Institute with Bill Eddy, who developed the BIF method of communication, which I won't go into here, but have gone into in several episodes where Megan has been a guest. BIF stands for brief, informative, friendly, and firm, and it's a tool that stepmoms and their spouses can use when they're facing challenging situations. But, the conversation with Megan and the lesson learned from this is having some of those structured communication strategies where you have the BIF formula, there's also an EAR formula, and some things like that can really help lower the temperature when you've got a hugely hugely high conflict co-parent. So those are the first 5 lessons. Whew, that's a lot. We've got 10 more to go, but this feels like a good time to tell you about what I want to do to thank you for your time listening to me these last few years. And what that is I would love to offer one of you a free one-on-one coaching session. All you have to do to enter is go to iTunes and leave me a review of the podcast. Super easy, doesn't have to be long, but leave a quick review. 5 stars is great, but just leave a review and then screenshot it and send it to me. You can DM it to me on Instagram or in the show notes. I have linked to a form where you can submit it with your screenshot. On March 1st, so coming up in just a couple of weeks, I am going to draw a name from the submissions, and I'm going to give you an hour of absolutely free, no strings attached coaching. Now, I normally charge $249 for a single 1-hour session, so this is a huge giveaway. I hope you'll go online and enter because I can't wait to work with you. And with that, let's get on to lesson 6. All right. So lesson 6 is another of my favorites. And that lesson that came from this episode is embrace the journey of stepmotherhood with openness and adaptability. And this is from episode 85, Learning How to Stepmom One Lesson at a Time with Jamie Yukas. In this episode, Jamie, if you missed the episode, Jamie is an Emmy Award-winning journalist, and she shares her real-time experiences navigating stepmom life. She's a fairly new stepmom, has been a stepmom for just a couple of years, but she's got a great outlook on all of this and a really positive confidence that I think is really helpful for stepmoms to hear. One of the things we talked about is the importance of staying flexible and the importance of continuing to learn when you're in a blended family. She has had such an open and patient process as a stepmom, and she really has embraced the learning process that comes with that role. And I love that she underscores the importance of kind of taking this open, receptive, viewpoint as a stepmom and finding support networks through your friends, through professionals, through your family. It's just really great to be able to approach this role, and to see such a successful professional approach this role with such humility and openness. I think we can all learn from that. So lesson number 7, and this is another one that goes to personal growth. This lesson is that taking care of yourself and personal growth are the foundations for a strong marital relationship. So this episode was all about your relationship with your spouse. And this is from episode 96, A Better Marriage Starts with a Better You, with Casey and Megan Caston. Now, they are the founders of Marriage 365. If you follow them on Instagram, they have a fantastic Instagram presence, and they put up a lot of really humorous reels that, highlight their relationship and struggles that they have, gone through. But they're not a step family, but they both came to their marriage with a lot of background in their own blended families and a lot of dynamics that they each needed to address. And they're very open about all the things they've been through and how they each focused on their individual healing and self-improvement and how that led them to a really healthy place in terms of communication and brought them to a much more resilient marriage within their family dynamic. And they give us some really great strategies for improving communication between partners in doing regular relationship check-ins and a lot of others. It was a really fun interview to do. And they both just have such a common sense way of approaching your relationship and making your relationship a priority, which is something I think we can all learn from. All right, lesson number 8. Reclaiming your narrative empowers you to be an unbothered stepmom so you can navigate stepmotherhood with confidence. And this one comes from episode 91 with Naja Hall. Now, this episode is with one of my favorite people, Naja Hall, who has been on the podcast a couple of times. Naja is a certified coach and educator, and we dive into the significance of defining your role and your identity as a stepmom and embracing your unique journey and how you really can empower yourself to define your own story and to release some of the pressures that society puts on stepmoms to find your personal peace. Naja is one of the most confident people I know, and her confidence is absolutely infectious and inspiring. And every time I talk to her, I learn something. So I felt like I had to include her in this list because she really does navigate stepmotherhood with confidence and gives us some great lessons in this episode about how you can too. All right, lesson number 9. Evidence-based strategies are essential for developing healthy coping mechanisms in your stepfamily life. Now, this one, I feel like I'm saying all of these were important, and they are. That's why they're on this list, but this one's important. So this is from episode 93, What Does Work in Stepfamilies According to Research. And that was an interview I did with Dr. Larry Ganong. And Larry is one of the top academics and researchers around, along with Patricia Papernow and a few others. And in this episode, we talked about his new book, which focuses on what the research does tell us about what's working in stepfamily life. We hear a lot about the challenges around stepfamily life and the problems people are having. But looking at the research on what is working really can help us learn how to navigate some of these complex dynamics more effectively. And the discussion with Larry was really instructive. And for me, even bigger than understanding what works in stepfamilies, which was amazing to hear about. It also underscores the importance for me of following the evidence and really taking a research-backed approach to your stepfamily life. And if you've followed me for a while, you probably already know that this approach is important to me. I am not the type to get on Instagram like an influencer and coach you based on my opinions. There's nothing wrong with influencers. They're great. I know a lot of them. There's also nothing wrong with opinions. I have a lot of them too. But in blended family life, I think especially in blended family life, our opinions can lead us into giving advice that may go against what research is telling us. And so I have kind of taken the stance throughout my coaching career that the advice I give and the work I do with the stepmoms that I work with is really based on evidence and research around what we know works with step families and what we know doesn't work. So I loved this conversation with Larry for that reason too. So it was sort of a substance, but also that I think that the research is so important. And it's part of why I launched the Step Family Coach Academy was I wanted to train more coaches and get more coaches out into the world who do have that research and evidence-based understanding. And Larry is one of the top folks who's putting out really great research and papers that really helps in supporting the work that we do as coaches. So I thought this was an important episode. And this leads us to the very last episode, or very last lesson that I wanted to talk about with you today. And that is that effective communication is the cornerstone of healthy step-family dynamics. And now earlier I mentioned structured communication around the conversation that I had with Megan Hunter. This is just a more general that effective communication is the cornerstone. And this is from episode 94, Smooth Talking, Improving Communication One Step at a Time. Now you'll notice most of the episodes I've highlighted today have been episodes where I brought you a guest to learn from versus me just talking. That's not because I don't think what I offer you in my non-guest episodes is valuable. I do. But I also just really love talking to other people and hearing from other experts and bringing you other experts to hear from and learn from. But this episode and this topic is one that, and this lesson is one that I felt particularly strong about putting out there. It's all about communicating inside your step family. Because the fact is, and we've talked about this in this episode, and I've talked about it in many other episodes, that we have a lot of dynamics that first families just don't have. And if we can't communicate with our partners, or our stepkids for that matter, it's going to make things that much more difficult. So in this episode, I give you a few tools to help with that and talk about the importance of continuing to learn around communication and how to communicate. So that episode is really from personal experience, and that lesson is from personal experience because I feel like I am a lifelong learner around communication, and I'm always looking at different communication strategies and how to kind of do communication. And I'm using big air quotes right now, how to do communication better. It's important in every relationship that we have at home, at work, just in life, but in this context, especially at home and especially with your partner, because, this is your person. This is why you're in a step family to begin with. And, if you guys can't communicate well, it's going to make things that much harder. So, those are the 10 lessons. I do want to also give an honorable mention to last week's episode where I spoke with Maria Simon. We talked about some of the legal issues that stepmoms can face around step family life, and it can be so involved and so tricky. And she breaks it all down in a really great way for stepmoms to really understand how their lives can be impacted. So I'm definitely excited to have her back in the future. And there's so many guests that I could have listed today who have given such great lessons over these past 100 episodes. I mean, so many. Mindy Kyle, Jamie Scrimger, Dawn Braithwaite, Casey Davidson, Jessica Frew, Barb Goldberg. I mean, I could just go on and on and on. So I encourage you, if you have not listened to all 100 episodes, I mean, I'm not going to tell you to go binge them right now, but you could. But I encourage you to check out some of the episodes you've missed. I guarantee whatever you're going through in your stepmom life, there is probably an episode that talks about it. And if there's not, send me a DM on Instagram and suggest it because I love hearing from you. And, send me a DM and let me know which episodes you enjoy. This podcast journey has been such a wild ride these last few years, and I really love talking to you on the regular. So I am going to keep coming out with more and more tools to help you on your stepmom journey, like the masterclass I'm offering on the 26th, like the group coaching that I'm launching at the end of the month. There's going to be a lot more coming up, and I hope you'll stick with me. You can head over to the show notes at stepfamilysolutions.com/episode 100 to make sure that you don't miss anything that I talked about today. And friend, I really hope you'll stick with me for the next 100 episodes. Don't forget to hit subscribe so that you never miss one, and share it with friends. And if you want to be entered for the free one-on-one coaching session, go leave me a review and then just screenshot it and send it to me. And join me on the 26th for the Exhausted to Empowered Stepmom Masterclass. All the links are in the show notes at stepfamilysolutions.com/episode 100. So with that, happy 100, and I will see you next time. That's it for this week. If you've enjoyed our chat, I hope you'll help spread the word. Share this episode with friends, and head on over to wherever you listen to podcasts and leave me a review. And don't forget, for more great stepmom content, head on over to thiscustomlife.com and follow me on social media. Just search This Custom Life on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Until next time, you keep being you and know that we are in this together. See you here next week.